there, and welcome to Spoiler Piece Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Megan Kearns. My pronouns are she, her. I write film reviews for Edge Media Network. I'm a co-host of the Slashers podcast, a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and I'm a member of Gallica, the Society of LGBTQ Entertainment Critics.
My name is Dave Riedel. My pronouns are he, him. I write for the Chicago Reader, and I am also a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
My name is Evan Crean. I am co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living, and co-host of the It's the Pictures podcast. My pronouns are he, him.
You are all of those things, Evan. And you are
It
too,
is
Dave.
true.
And
Our
Dave,
credits are growing longer and longer these days.
They really are. They're long, long, long. And Dave, you're back. We're so excited you're back.
I'm back front and sideways, so dad jokes aplenty, apparently.
Ooh, boy. Well, before we delve into more dad jokes and the movies this week, we want to tell you about our Patreon episode. For $5 a month, you get access to weekly bonus episodes. And this week, we talked about the 1934 rom-com It Happened One Night. And we had a very lively conversation and some possibly surprising opinions. So you should definitely go check that out if you're a patron and if you're not, consider joining. For this week, we are talking about The People's Joker and documentary Girl State. So let's kick things off with The People's Joker, which Dave and I both saw. And The People's Joker is I'm going to quote the press release on this one. It is a, quote, queer coming-of-age superhero parody. And it is written, directed, starring, and edited by Vera Drew, who is an editor. And she's always wanted to make movies. And in addition to her being a writer on this, Brie LaRose is also a writer. And here is the synopsis from the press release. This revolutionary DIY parody film and hilarious reimagining of the classic autobiographical coming-of-age story follows an unconfident, closeted trans girl as she moves to Gotham City to make it big as a comedian by joining the cast of UCB Live, a government-sanctioned late-night sketch show in a world where comedy has been outlawed. As mainstream success eludes our heroine, leading her to unite with a ragtag team of rejects, misfits, and a certain love interest named Mr. J, Joker the Harlequin, which is her name, is born again as a confident and psychotic Joker on a collision course with the city's fascist-caped crusader. That is a mouthful, but very true. Before I dive into this, yes, so Vera Drew, she is a trans woman, and her character is Joker the Harlequin, and her pronouns are also she, her. And that is pretty much a good summary of the film. It's her kind of narrating what's going on in her life, starting with childhood, and going from her childhood with her mom, and then wanting to move to Gotham City. And she also is medicated throughout her childhood with the kind of laughing gas.
Smilex.
Thank you, Dave. That makes her smile every time and kind of giggle like every time her mom says something like unsupportive or frustrating or making it about herself, because her mom has very narcissistic tendencies. And and then she tries to do comedy at very much an SNL analog, and we even get an kind of animated Lorne Michaels in it, a parody of Lorne Michaels and other comedians from SNL. And then she becomes friends with the Penguin, who is also a comedian. And they decided to start an anti-comedy troupe so they can perform comedy legally, or do kind of a legal like loophole. And then she meets Mr. J, Jason Todd, who he is a trans man, and he gives his backstory. And Jason Todd is one of the characters who was Robin, and he is Robin in this and gets into that relationship with Batman. And this whole while, Joker, she is trying to figure herself out, about her gender, about her queerness, about what she wants to do for her career. And then it kind of leads on this kind of emotional odyssey for her to figure out who she is. And yeah, so Dave, what did you think of this?
I found this, well, its heart is in the right place, but overall, I found it tedious and predictable. So,
Okay.
I will
Tedious
say,
and predictable.
yeah, tedious and predictable. I thought the production design was cool. I did
Mhm.
like that Drew and collaborators, whoever, decided to make it look like just this sort of garish, nightmarish, obviously, CGI, whatever, either to disguise its low budget or to enhance it or whatever the
Mhm.
reason they did it, it looks good.
Mhm.
I really liked whoever played the penguin. I liked the penguin as a character, and I liked
He's
the penguin's performance.
Yeah.
I think a big problem that I have with this is that it's selling itself as a parody, but it's a little too earnest to be a parody. I mean, it's parodying
interesting.
it's parodying some things, like obviously the UCB SNL connection,
Yes.
the Lorne Michaels stuff, the sort of send up of bad stand-up comedy.
Yes.
But I think a lot of things that are supposed to be funny in this are not. But I also think that a lot of the things that are supposed to be genuinely emotional are genuinely emotional.
Mhm.
So it's like, I think tonally, it's just kind of a mishmash for me. I also don't really think that Vera Drew's performance is all that good. So,
Okay.
not bad, but I liked her delivery when she was doing like the kind of narration when I don't know what the narration, I thought, where she's narrating directly to the camera or whatever.
Yes.
I really kind of bought all that, but I didn't really buy the character stuff so much. So I don't know what that says about me or Vera Drew, but I mean, I think I kind of like the idea, and I do like the idea of taking down comedy as a thing.
Mhm.
And I also like that there's like a trans coming of age story,
Mhm.
but I think the disparate elements, I think there's too much going on with, I think there's a lot of ideas and not enough room for them all to breathe. Is that the right thing to say?
Mhm.
So it works, but it doesn't work, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. Like, I think the scenes, and there are some moments that I did find funny, like when the Joker's mom, I wouldn't say comes around, but when mom
comes around,
comes to Gotham City to visit and tries to be supportive. And I don't even remember what the two of them are saying before, but the Joker says blah 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 blah, I'm trans, and then mom says something like, well, thank you for being honest with me, and then the Joker says, well, thank you for hearing me. And I just thought it was like, going immediately to that like gag of using the therapist talk right there was just really funny.
Mhm.
And I wish it had more moments like that. I also think a lot of the humor, I mean, it's kind of easy to take down SNL because it's SNL, so, and they have that joke in the movie, it was better in the 70s, it's like, yes, I mean, and I know that they're saying that, and they know that that's an old lame, I know that they know that.
Yes.
I know that they're smart, but like, it's, in a way, I'm trying to explain this in a way that makes sense. In a way, it's like it's a parody of a parody. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's like they're sending up things that are easy to send up, but they know that it's easy to send up. And so that sort of makes it anti-comedy, but it's still, and I love anti-comedy, but it doesn't really land for me for some reason. And I think that might be the performance. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot going on in this story.
There's a lot. There's
a lot that they're packing into 90 minutes. And it's kind of like, it happened one night, could have given them 10 minutes from its running time to tack onto this, I do appreciate that Robert Wool shows up in a cameo, and
yes,
that Bob
he does.
Odenkirk's in a cameo.
Yep.
And that Maria Bamford is the voice of Lorne Michaels. But
okay, that's funny.
Yeah. Well, it was Sarah Sherman, and I guess that she asked, after this played at Toronto, she asked to be recast, which I was like, oh, well, I guess I know which way you want your crew to go. So, and that's not shade on Sarah Sherman. It's just, whatever. I don't know. Megan, what did you think?
So I really enjoyed this. I think it's really strange, and I think it's bold. I think it's creative. I really liked Vera Drew's performance. I found her really funny. I actually think she's the funniest part of the film. But I do agree with you that I think the moments that she's narrating and talking directly to the camera are her best moments, which is funny because I know we all often talk about how narration can be so distracting and so unnecessary. But here it feels very cathartic and very confessional. And because it's such a personal story for her, that I think it's really necessary. And I think without it, it wouldn't work. And I don't think it would have the same emotional resonance to it and core and kind of that heart and earnestness that you were talking about. I really loved all of the nods to Batman. Like, I love that there's the neon sign that Joker dances in front of that says "Hell Here," which is a great nod to Catwoman from Batman Returns. I love that we see the Superman 2 Kryptonian villains, Zod and Ursa and Non, and they're like standing in line, like waiting to like audition for something, which I love. I also love the nods to Disney because you see the Mad Hatter and the crocodile, the ticking crocodile from Peter Pan. So I love all those little touches. There are a lot of attention to detail, a lot of little touches I liked. I also think this is a really clever way to tell a trans coming out story. And I really like the way that the film deals with misgendering and transitioning and dead naming and queer relationships. And in regards to dead naming, I like how every single time someone uses her dead name, it's bleeped out. It's a swear,
I like that choice.
It's such a great choice. And there's only one time in the film it's not. And so it lands with the impact that it's supposed to. And it's when Mr. J, they're in a relationship and he dead names her in order to weaponize it to hurt her, which is horrible. But what I also think the film does really well, kind of expanding on that, is it really deftly contends with emotional abuse in romantic relationships and how even in a queer trans relationship, two trans people who are both queer, it can still be abusive. And because Mr. J, just like Joker in the, Batman movies and comics, he's very emotionally abusive and manipulative here. And I think the film does it. I think it depicts it and deals with it in a really great way. And I think there's a lot of authenticity there because Vera Drew is trans. The guy who plays Mr. J, he's a trans man. So I think there's a lot of, or he's trans, non-binary masculine. But I think that there's a lot of authenticity there that rings through and kind of comes through in the movie. And I really appreciate it. The one thing that didn't quite work for me is, and I love that the visuals work so well for you, Dave. I liked the production design and the sets were really great and some of the animation is. But for me, some of the visual effects, and I know this is such a nitpicky thing because I know it's so low budget. I know that. But some of the effects I wanted to be a little better, a little crisper. Some of the cinematography I wish had been a bit better.
You all right, yeah.
But I know like they're doing what they can with the budget that they have. But for me, I love how the film is so tender. I think that was kind of something I wasn't quite expecting. And I really love that it's really about self-acceptance ultimately. And I think it does that in a really tender, really sweet way. And so I thought this was great. It's a weird film, but I really dug it. I did.
One of the things that let's talk about the things I did like. I liked actually I found the mother character insufferable, but that's just because I know people like that.
Right. Yeah, she's supposed to be.
That's nothing about the writing or the performance. No. I actually thought Lynn Downey, who plays the mom, is really good.
Yes. Yes.
And I did like that even after she tries to accept the Joker, it's still not quite. She's still not 100% there, and it's obvious and it's painful, and they play that out. I like that, but I think the thing that maybe affected me the most, and it's a really meta moment, but it's played for genuine emotion, and I think it works, is when, I don't remember how it leads into it, but it's the gaslighting scene when they actually, when Mr. J actually pulls out a lamp and holds it in front of the Joker's face, and the Joker is like explaining what gaslighting is as she's being gaslit. And I was like, this is actually really effective.
It was, yes.
So I did like that scene a lot. I think, also, you're not going to believe that I think this, but for a low budget movie, this has got a pretty good fucking sound design.
Yes. No, I'm not surprised at all. Yeah.
Low budge is like, I feel like even people who don't know how to operate a camera can still sometimes pull off a good shot.
Yeah.
Whereas for some reason, sound design just always suffers in low budget stuff. And they paid attention to it here, which is nice.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you, this would have been gone from like an okay to if the sound design had thrown me off, you know?
No, you're totally right. Yeah.
That's one of my, as you both, that might be my biggest pet peeve in movies is bad sound design.
Yeah.
So
it's funny. It's kind of like bad editing. It's like I don't always notice it unless it's bad and stands out, unless it's like so exceptionally good. You know, certain films I notice the sound design because it's like so horrific and nightmarish in the best possible way. But you're right. And, you know, that makes me kind of think about the visuals. I probably should, rethink my thoughts on the visuals too, because everything's done with an intentionality.
Everything's very intentional.
Yes. Because even when I was reading the press notes and Vera Drew's statement on the film, she said that there were certain times that there were errors in animation at like when they were doing the Lorne Michaels, when he's like, sorry, this scene is just amazing and ridiculous. Before he's eaten to death by poison ivy as like a Venus flytrap, but like one from Super Mario Brothers, which is absurd. She said that his clothes flew off in kind of in a way that was not supposed to be, and the animator was going to like reanimate, and she's like, no, keep it. I love it. And so there are a lot of things that are quote unquote mistakes that she wanted to keep in, and so it is very clear the intent. She had a vision and an intended look. So things that might be like not quite as crisp and kind of like might seem slightly off is probably absolutely her intention.
Yeah. Well, as somebody who has made a lot more music than he has movies or movie kind of stuff, I can tell you that like a lot of times the mistakes are the cool shit, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
So
that is fair.
So that happens. So
yeah, I love too in reading about the behind the scenes of this, and the whole reason this came about is because I don't know if it was Brie LaRose or someone else, but it was Brie LaRose. Brie LaRose said after Todd Phillips said the horrible thing he said about how you can't even be funny anymore because comedy's too woke and all this kind of bullshit. And Brie LaRose was like, well, I'm never watching, Todd Phillips' Joker. The only way I'll watch it is if Vera Drew re-edits it. And so that's what she did. She started like re-editing the Joker, the Todd Phillips one, and had a lot of fun with it. And then when COVID hit, she's like, oh shit, I'm not getting the editing jobs I need to get, but I also want to make a movie. And so, so that was the genesis of that. And I love that. And it's so interesting because, superhero films are so ubiquitous and we're bombarded with them for better or for worse. Cause some of us love them. Some of us don't. Some of us fall somewhere in between, but they are really a part of our, cultural lives and discourse. And I love that these superhero movies are so huge. They're such juggernauts with these massive inflated budgets. And here's Vera Drew coming in, with a tiny, tiny budget and kind of, this kind of punk aesthetic where, she's going to do it herself with this, small team and on a very tight, short, tight time frame, and something really lovely and weird and unique and personal comes out. And I just think that that's kind of great.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about it in the context of like other superhero stuff, just because I didn't think about it in that context, because it's so, even though it's using all of these characters and these, that's not what it is. It's using those things to make a different story, which is totally obvious. I don't even know why I'm saying that.
Yeah. I guess as someone who like, I love the Catwoman comics. And so I've been in that world for a long time. And obviously watching the Batman movies, I kind of love using that as like a template. I also love that the film opens with a thank you to Joel Schumacher, who made because Joel Schumacher, bless his heart, was making, super gay Batman.
Yeah.
I love it. Love that.
I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say Joel Schumacher, the Batman movies are not two of them, but Joel Schumacher did make some really good movies.
Yeah, he did.
And Joel Schumacher was a card. Like Joel Schumacher was funny.
Yes.
So, and knew how to make movies.
Yes. They were visual, sumptuous, interesting. Yeah. No, I completely agree. So, yeah. Oh, love it. Okay. Any final thoughts, Dave?
No. I said what I got to say, I think.
I said what I got to say. Yeah. The only thing I would say is, I just really enjoyed the hell out of this. This is a unique film. And, if you're someone who's lamenting the lack of originality in films, I would say, you might not be watching enough films, or maybe not the right films. And this is certainly original.
Yeah.
It sounds
definitely,
like it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I would give it points for originality. And,
Absolutely.
there's been a lot of, I know this has been, quote, controversial, unquote. And
You
I
mean
say,
this film?
yeah, I say,
Yes,
quote,
it
unquote,
has.
because it's been controversial to like Warner Brothers.
Right. Who's
But-
given it a lot of press.
Yeah, I
as
think
a
a lot of people
result.
wouldn't know about this movie without, all the
Right.
threats of lawsuits or whatever. But, it is, if from a strictly visual standpoint,
Mhm.
I guess I see where they're coming from. But when you watch it, it's like, this could not be farther away from, this is not copyright infringement. Just fucking get over yourself. So.
Yeah. It's using a few visual touches, and it's using certain, certain character origin stories. But yeah, very loosely. And
Yeah, it's loose. It's,
it is, yeah.
I think that if they looked different, nobody would know. If the Joker didn't look like the Joker, if the Joker's name were, something else, was not Joker, and we're a different superhero, no one would it's just, it doesn't. What I guess I'm saying is Warner Brothers is being too precious with its
they
beloved
are.
investment.
I think there's still people who would know. I think there like certain things. There are certain, like, I would have known. There are certain things that would have been a tip off to me. I'd be like,
I guess I'm
but I know
talking
what
about-
you're saying. Yes. Yes. No, but you're absolutely right. I think you're 100% right. They're being way too precious. Like, yes. Calm down now.
I know.
And I don't
You're
normally
not
say
going
to
to lose
calm
any
down.
fucking money because of the People's
No.
Joker. Okay.
No.
That's one of those things. It's like,
Absolutely
this is all
not.
about money. You are not going to lose. In fact, more people will probably fucking rent The Dark Knight.
Yes.
Yeah,
No, probably. And maybe Batman Forever.
maybe. Yeah. Who's this Joel Schumacher guy?
Right? Exactly. Exactly. Yes. And I will say, and my last thing I will say is, side note, I do love that we get Poison Ivy, and I love that we get Catwoman. I love the little touches. Anyway, we could keep talking, but yeah. Let's talk about the documentary Girl State, which all of us saw. Woohoo! And Girl State is directed by Jesse Moss and Amanda McBain. And let me give you the synopsis. Girl State follows 500 teenage girls from across Missouri as they gather for a week-long immersion in an elaborate laboratory of democracy where they build a government from the ground up, campaign for office, and form a Supreme Court to weigh the most divisive issues of the day. So this documentary premiered at Sundance earlier this year, 2024, and it focuses on several girls in this program, which specifically is the Missouri Girl State 2022 program, which is a follow-up to the Boys State documentary. All right, let's dive right in. Evan, what did you think?
Well, I came into this without having seen Boys State as a frame of reference, but I thought this sounded really interesting. I like the idea of them forming the mock Supreme Court, although I think that the plot summary makes it seem like it's a bigger chunk of the documentary than it actually is.
Yeah, it's fair.
I feel like they really only focus on a single case that they bring to this mock Supreme Court, and we really only see them review one case, which was kind of a bummer because I would have really liked to see more of that. And maybe they just didn't do it. So, you get what you get when you're filming a documentary, but I think that would have been really cool to see more cases and hear more arguments, especially, you have a group of young women who are arguing abortion case. Like in this one specifically that they were arguing was like about whether a woman should have to receive counseling, like mandatory counseling before, getting an abortion. And I was just like, oh boy, this is like, this is a dense like thing to have to be arguing. And I liked that. I liked seeing that. I liked that the documentary zeroes in on, even though I didn't see Boys State, zeroes in on the discrepancies between Girls State and Boys State. Particularly, I guess they were saying that this was the first year that they were hosted on the same campus at the same time. So I kind of wish there was just a little bit more footage of what was going on at Boys State to like help frame up that argument better about the discrepancies. But I mean, it was pretty clear early on when they said, oh, you can't wear backless shirts and you have to go everywhere with a buddy. And I was like, what? I'm sure they're not saying anything about that to the boys group.
Of course
Oh,
not.
definitely
So,
not.
I was infuriated for them, and the young woman who ended up winning the governor race, which was in this, Cecilia was her name. That was a rallying cry for her early on. Like, what the fuck? This dress code bullshit.
Welcome to the life of a femme.
Yeah.
Sadly.
So I liked this. Yeah, I mean, I like this documentary. I think it raises a lot of really great points, both about gender disparities in government, in life, in programs. I personally would have liked to see a broader swath of people profiled in the documentary. I feel like it's at times felt a little too narrow for my taste. And I feel like I was less interested in like Emily, who was one of the main people that kind of profile in the documentary, until it got to the point where she lost her race and then decided to write that like expose article. Then I was like, okay, now I'm more interested in what's going on with you. I think that was a really interesting pivot on her part. But yeah, I mean, I liked it. I didn't love it. I think there was some good stuff here, but I wished it was more pointed or more compelling. That's kind of where I land on it.
All right, Dave, what did you think?
Well, I'm going to fess up to something really embarrassing.
Oh, no.
The reason I didn't watch Boys State is because I don't know why, but I looked at the poster when we received it, or the cover when we received it in the for your consideration things. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was like a juvenile detention movie or something like that. Mm-hmm. I just thought, oh, this is a movie about like juvies. I don't want to watch that shit. I don't want to watch, some, kid with a horrible broken family, who's getting sent inside for, to the American equivalent of a borstal. Okay. No. So then when you two wanted to watch this, I was like, well, this can't be about, wait a minute. And then I looked at the poster and I'm like, wait, they're showing red, white, and blue braces. What is this fucking movie? So had no idea. I think that I feel a lot of the same way Evan does. I think that there are a few too many people. I actually think there are a few too many people they focus on in the short running time that they have. I feel like you could have, spent a few more minutes with each of them. I think I can't remember all their names. I liked Toshi a lot. We didn't get to. She was the
Yep.
attorney general, right?
Yes.
Right.
Didn't get to
Yep.
see a lot of her, but I also feel like that was sort of a, unfortunately, kind of a function of their role in Girls State itself. Like,
Yes.
she didn't want to be governor. She didn't want to be on this. She was the attorney general. And then,
Mhm.
like, once
Mhm.
that portion of the week was over, her story's kind of over, you know?
Yep.
Whereas you've got the three of them running, Cecilia, Emily, and who's the third one running for governor? Faith.
Faith. Yep.
Mhm.
Faith, who was pretty cool, and she gave a really
Yeah.
good speech.
I
And
loved
then
her
Cecilia
speech.
came and blew them out of the water.
Yeah, I liked Faith's speech the best.
Me
I did
too.
too. I
We
thought
were-
the substance of her speech was
Yes.
Right.
absolutely
Yeah.
the best.
Exactly.
Yeah, Sean and I were talking about that. We felt like it was the most like relevant to the like discourse and,
Yeah.
and speaking to, specific political issues.
And she delivered it really well. It just so
Yep.
happens that Cecilia is a fucking salesperson.
Yes.
So-
She's an excellent public speaker.
Yeah.
Yes.
I also thought, like Evan, I didn't really, it's not that I didn't like Emily. I'm just like, conservative girl from Missouri. Who cares? Conservative
I didn't
white
like
Christian
Emily.
girl
I'll
from,
say it.
It's like,
Yeah.
well, I mean,
I feel bad about saying that about a teen girl, but I'll say
hey,
it.
she's in the fucking documentary. She's
Right.
she's
That's
open
right.
to, I watched a documentary about like chess kids, like, I don't know, 10 years ago. I don't remember what it's called. And I wrote a review that was pretty glowing. And then one of the little bastard's fathers, and I didn't mention this kid in the
Jesus.
review, like called the newspaper and was like, why didn't you mention my kid?
Oh
You know
my
why I didn't
God.
mention your kid? Because he's a fucking asshole. And I didn't want to call a 14-year-old a fucking asshole. But now that he's
Yeah.
24, fuck him. So
Yeah,
anyway.
no, Yeah, I don't think it's that here. Although I did kind of think as I was watching it, I was
for
like,
sure.
you're the kind of person that, like, in a couple of years, you're going to go to college and you're going to flip from being conservative to being liberal because you're going to realize that a lot of your opinions, like,
I
Well, the
actually
thing that
don't,
was-
I don't
are
think
are
that,
like very
sadly.
flimsy and thin. Like when you're like, oh, you should have an AR at home. That's the best line of defense against intruders, and you just leave the gun lying around. I was like, this is just really these
That
are just
wasn't-
really
I
bad.
d- now that
I
you're
know
saying that, I
people who
remember.
think that, who think
Oh,
that as
sure,
an
of
adult. So I'm
course.
just saying, like, I don't think she's gonna flip. I think that's what she thinks. Sadly,
Well, one of the things about her that was interesting, I thought, is, she's a conservative and she's this and she's a Christian, what the fuck ever. But a lot of the things that she talked about were not necessarily conservative ideas. I mean, she did
Right,
have
that's-
conservative opinions, but then she had some that were not. So I think that she might double down when she gets older. Who knows? I think that's being in Missouri. If she goes to a college in Missouri, that's probably more likely. But what I did find interesting about Emily is after she tanked in the governor's race, she wrote that expose with real actual reporting.
yes,
In it. Like
Yeah,
that
some
was
good
very
reporting.
cool to watch a 16-year-old
Mhm.
like fucking doing the shoe leather reporting
Yes.
and walking up to the guy
Agreed.
and being like, so there's a spending disparity between these two like camps. Why? And it's like,
Mhm.
you fucking go, junior reporter. Because I
Mhm.
love me some reporters.
Yeah,
yes,
I
you
was
do.
impressed.
Yeah.
It was,
and then she was worried at the beginning. She's like, I don't know if I should write it because I might like lose the scholarship. And then because she wrote it, she won the scholarship.
Yep.
That was fucking great.
Mhm.
It's like, yes, do the thing that's like the right thing, even though it's more difficult. And she knew it was the right thing because she that was a thing that's kind of, she's like a conservative, quote unquote. But she's like, what is all this fucking gender bullshit going on at this place? This is fuck this, So she didn't say fuck this because she's a Christian girl from Missouri and it's a PG-13 movie. But still.
Yeah, but see, I'm going to disagree with you on that point because she thought all this gender bullshit was bullshit, but not in the sense that it's oppressive or unfair. She
Mm.
was more of the mindset like, oh, well, when I'm at home, no one tells me not to do things. And I'm like, no, they probably do. You just don't realize it because a lot of things can be microaggressions, which thank God Toshi talked about microaggressions. Like I was like, thank God.
Yeah.
But, granted more in regards to racism, of course. But yeah, but I'm
Mhm.
just like, no, the thing of it is that there's a very pernicious way of gender that is being enforced by this program and that I had
Yes.
a big problem with in the documentary, which thank God quite a few of the girls seem to have a problem with too. And I feel like that's what Emily was perpetuating too. I don't know, maybe I'm putting too much, pressure on a girl who is a girl and who very much may change her mind, like you said, Evan. But yeah, my problem with Emily wasn't actually any of that, although her opinions on ARs were like, and gun control is disgusting. My problem was, I'm like, you say you want to meet people, you say you want to get to know people's opinions, you say you want to hear other people's perspectives, which is all lovely and great, but you got to stop talking at people. You got to talk with them and not at them. And that was kind of my issue with her. But I digress. Please continue, Dave.
No, I mean, that's really it. I think that I wouldn't even really call it a problem. I just feel like, we need a little bit more screen time with some of these kids.
Yeah,
like, I didn't really find Nisha that compelling, but I also didn't see her very much.
Yeah.
Maybe she was a lot more interesting.
Oh.
She has one of the most interesting moments of the film, as far as I'm concerned.
Which one was that?
It was when she says, after she loses, and she says, we all work very hard on the image of ourselves that we want to show the world, and it's exhausting. And
Yeah,
I think that is one of the most poignant points of the film, which was lovely and heartbreaking.
Yeah. I also liked her friendship with the other girl who did become a Supreme Court justice. I thought that they were very sweet to each other in a very genuine way.
Yes.
And I always worry when I see like teens in documentaries that one of them is going to be like, no, fuck that bitch. Like afterwards, Thank God. Yeah. So, I mean, it's good. It's not great. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that its problem is, one, I think the program's like, what, a week? So...
Yes.
I mean, how much time do you really have to get to know anybody in a week? I wish that they had delved a little bit more into like I said, I haven't seen Boys State, so maybe there's this in that, but they did a different year in Boys State. I think that's 2018 or 2019 that
I
they
think
did
so.
Boys,
yeah.
or whatever year it covers. I know it came out in 2020 or 2022. But I'm thinking that I would have liked to have seen more of like what does go on at Boys State, because I got to tell you, it looked like a fucking fraternity party to me. So, and not really all that interesting or smart or revelatory. And maybe it's just portrayed that way, but they all look like a bunch of fucking mopes, So I like who are just like, yeah, we're politicians, whatever. Come on, nice hair. I mean, I'm glad that the president, has the sides of his head is shaved and then he's got a fucking mullet. But like,
I was like, really? They elected a dude with a mullet?
Absolutely, they did, because it's Missouri. So, as somebody from the Midwest, I know of what I speak. So, although you could argue that Missouri is not really the Midwest, it's kind of the South, sort of, whatever, sort of the plains. But then you're really getting nitpicky because, it's got mountains, whatever. So, excuse me while I go off on my angry Midwestern roots. So, I just also the one thing that, and the girls all pointed this out in the documentary, which I think is a big part of the reason Emily wanted to do the article, is like when the fucking governor of Missouri comes and like swears in the boys' president, but the girls, I mean, their ceremony was perfectly lovely, but it was still like inside at like a smaller room and like fuck all that shit, man. Like, what is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ugh.
Sexism. That's what that is.
Yes, that's what that is. It was just, I was watching that and I was like, unfortunately, I totally believe that this is like, to them, to the boys there, they didn't even give it a second thought. And like, as somebody who's lived 35 years longer than most of those people, it's like, Jesus Christ, man, open your fucking eyes. Anyway, that's the content of the documentary, not the documentary itself. So, which they were right to shine a light on. Anyway, I spoke a bunch.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, also what I love about Emily's article, which by the way, I agree with you, Evan, in regards to Emily, that she gets a lot more interesting after she loses, which is terrible, but it's true. She does. And I do love that one of the things she uncovers is that the girls' state receives $200,000 in funding and boys' state receives $600,000 in funding, which is a despicable disparity.
That is a big number.
It's huge and it's awful. And yeah, so I had a lot of feelings about this because I have said, I've shared this with you guys, and I very well may have shared this on the show before, but in a previous life, my job was coordinating a program for women to run for political office, specifically grad students. And so I feel really strongly about women and non-binary people running for office. And I was very excited to learn more about this program and to see what these girls were doing. And I mean, they're so incredible, and their resumes are amazing at like 16, 17 years old. The amount of community service they've done, the amount of, school programs and organizations, but especially in the beginning when they're like listing them out, I'm like, oh my God, these poor girls are going to burn out. Like, oh my God, like there's just so much on their plate. But yeah, I wish we had seen more of the actual program. And I think to your point, Evan, when you were talking about the Supreme Court case that they were talking about, when they were talking about mandatory counseling, but also is it a violation of privacy? It is a really interesting case, but I found that to be the most salient part of the film, not just because it's very pertinent. And of course, the film ends with the, text on screen about how 6 days later Roe v. Wade was overturned. So it's very timely, of course, and has impacted the entire country so severely and tragically. But I found it really interesting because it gets into the nuts and bolts of that program, which I really wanted to see more of, because so much of it just felt, as some of the girls said, like fluff and just kind of like rah, rah, girl power. And not that there's nothing wrong with that. And, we need programs where, people can bond and girls and non-binary people can get together. And I love that. But at the same time, clearly the girls that the documentary focused on, they wanted some more like intense political discussions, and they wanted
more substance.
Yes. And they wanted to get more into the nitty gritty. And so I would have loved to have seen more of that. And I feel like even the way, and this is such a minor thing, but the way one of the teachers, program facilitators opens the day by being like, hey girl, hey. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, there's something just gross about it. And also I'm like, do you actually know if everyone's a girl here? And like, we don't even cover pronouns and gender until 50 minutes into the film, when someone's like, oh, I'm putting pronouns on my name badge and you can do. And I'm just like, yes, thank you. Like, where else why are we not talking more about pronouns in a program? And it was just frustrating. And it's very frustrating that there wasn't more focus on politics. And I now need to go and watch the Boys State documentary. I'm actually glad the film doesn't focus on the Boys State. I don't give a shit about the Boys State in this movie. I want to focus on the girls. I want to focus on what they're doing. But as far as the disparities go, I think that part is great. But now I want to go see the Boys State documentary and see the differences and kind of have that like double feature. But yeah, I really wish there was more focus on the political functions. And I wonder, is that a fault of the documentary or is that a fault of the program? Like, does the program not focus on that, or did the documentary choose not to put that in? And I just am not sure. But yeah, the dress code bullshit, and going in you have to travel as a buddy. I mean, that kind of shit, I cannot tell you that stuff has happened my entire life. I'm sure it has happened to women long before me. It is still happening today. I mean, there are people who don't think women should run alone because they can get assaulted. Like, it's ridiculous. It's absurd. And I really do like that Cecilia, who wins the governor ship, she says, I would have liked to have talked about dismantling, sexism and patriarchy rather than just how to navigate it. And I think that's such a great line. And I really wish the program did that. I also think, I think it's interesting that we're talking about, Dave, you said, I wish it had focused on less girls, but kind of more intensely. And Evan, you're like, I wish it focused on more, kind of more broadly. And I do think it's kind of like, I also wish it had been a little bit more intense and the focus, but I think this kind of like middling way didn't quite work. Like I wish it had gone deeper. Or if you're going to do broad, do more broad, like do more people. So I kind of agree with both of you. But yeah, and I don't know. So I liked the documentary overall because I thought the girls were really, really interesting and really compelling, and I really wanted to learn about them. And, you know, I'm giving Emily a hard time here, but, you know, even she was really interesting, and especially as the film goes on. But I have some issues with how the film or the program depicts gender. And I also it would have been nice if we got some background information. I mean, I know these stats, but it would have been nice to get some background information on the disparity of women in politics, because it is appalling. And even though people know it, I don't think they know how disgustingly stark the disparity is between, you know, women and men in political office. And you know, they talked a lot about abortion, which I love, but it was interesting because like one of them was talking about like, oh, I don't think anything will really happen to like New York, for instance, you know, if Roe v. Wade is overturned. And that's simply not true. Like, even though New York is one of the much more protected states in the country, they are seeing such a massive influx, as is Massachusetts, massive influx of people coming from out of state to get abortions, which puts strain on resources. So anyway, there are other political contexts that I wish had been provided by this documentary. I've talked a lot because I have a lot of opinions.
The one thing I will say, and this is, I think that you're right about the resources, being a strain on resources for the Roe v. Wade decision. I think they're young, and B, was anybody really thinking in Missouri, like, what's going to happen? Is everybody from Texas going to run to, you know, Illinois to, I don't know if they were thinking that. It's unfortunate that is the thing that we have to think about.
Yes.
Unfortunate's not the right word. Appalling.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, both are. Yeah.
I mean, your point, I'm right there with you on your point. It's just, kind of watching that with the historical living where we are now, when we are now, it's just kind of like, it's so much worse than we thought it was going to be, you know, which I guess is what I'm saying. Even, you know,
yeah. And it's gotten even worse it's gotten even worse since then too.
Yeah.
You know, it's like now they're trying to take away, you know, medication abortion, and trying to throw all kinds of crazy claims that it's like unsafe.
Yeah.
Even though abortion is a routine medical procedure. And we're not even talking about medication abortion, just, you know, abortion as a procedure. Anyway, but I mean, I think the reason why you know, and I thought about it because I'm like, well, these are just girls, you know, they're young, but these are really educated girls. They're knowledgeable about the political issues. They're passionate about the political issues. So I think that's why it kind of surprised me. And also at the same time, if you're doing a documentary on politics, shouldn't you kind of have the lay of the land as the filmmakers? And, you know, and I guess they made the choice like, no, we just want to show the girls and what they're doing. And that's a choice, and that's fair. I think another filmmaker might have made a different choice, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I'm trying to, like, the first person I thought of was like Errol Morris. Well, Errol Morris would have been in the documentary. So, you know, that's probably too different a comparison. But like, yeah, definitely. I think that, I don't know if it's a great choice, but you're right. It's a choice. I think that I may have wanted to see people. I don't necessarily want to hear all the questions being asked off screen, but some prodding might have been interesting. But to your point, these are all smart, educated girls. So maybe they're like, we'll just let the girls talk because they're smart and they're educated, you know? So who knows? Yeah.
But I do wonder, like, I don't know. They all seemed kind of, and again, maybe this was the girls, maybe this was the environment, but they all seemed to kind of shy away from those really intense conversations, except for Emily and another girl that she's talking to, where they start to get into it. But then the film cuts, and I'm like, wait, are you cutting, or did their conversation end? Because it was really abrupt. And so it just left me with these questions. Like, I wanted more. Like, Yeah. But I was like, did you not get more, or are you editing it out? Like,
Who knows?
right.
That's a question for the round table when they come through town, whenever that is.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, I don't know. And is it that it makes people uncomfortable that, teens are talking politics? Like, I think that's great. Like,
Yeah.
I think that should be encouraging and
Yeah, I was in student
invigorating.
government, if that tells you anything. So
I did Model UN.
yeah, me too. So, well, 1 year. I did it 1 year, and
Me
then I was like,
too.
okay, enough of this.
I did it so I could take a trip to New York.
See, there you go.
But I also was really interested in politics, so there was that.
Yeah.
Evan, were you in student government at all?
I was not. No, I stayed far away from student government. No, I'm just kidding. I think I ran for office in middle school and didn't get elected, and then I think maybe once or twice in high school, and then I was kind of like, whatever, it's not happening for me.
Well, now I feel like I've met politicians and I've interned for them, and I've met a lot of people who have worked behind the scenes and as elected leaders, and now I want nothing to do with it. So now I'm in your camp of it. Yeah, because now I'm like, no, I want to dismantle it all.
Yeah.
But I love how passionate these girls are, and I think that that's something really special. I just wish we could have kind of gotten more in depth. But I do love that their camaraderie and that they did form these lovely friendships.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is nice.
Yeah. Do you guys have any other thoughts?
Nah, except I got to watch Boys State now. Great.
I don't know. I've heard things about Boys State. I've heard them some pretty objectionable people with some pretty objectionable opinions.
Oh, buckle up.
Oof. Okay.
Well, I will say, yeah, I did find this overall a well-made documentary. Like I said, I'm curious about a lot of the choices, but I do think it's overall well-made. I think the girls are really compelling. And I have to say, I love the final choice of songs of Taylor Swift's The Man over the credits. It's a great, underrated song, and it really is fitting. All about sexism.
Yeah, I like T Swift. No complaints here.
She's the best.
I mean, I don't know her music the way some people do, but what I hear, I'm like, yeah, she's got some talent, this kid. She could make it.
This kid, she's 34.
I know, she's like 35 or whatever, I know.
And a billionaire.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Said with tongue firmly planted in cheek. I hope you know.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. No, but I also liked during the credits, I liked that we got to see kind of where they are, like where the girls are in college and what they're doing.
Yeah, Emily's a radio reporter. Hey, there you go.
Hey. Who knows? Maybe you're right, Evan. Maybe I was way too hard on Emily, and maybe she is going to become a liberal. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Maybe she's going to be like Meghna Chakravarti or something like that.
Maybe she'll be what?
Like Meghna Chakravarti on NPR.
I was like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, she hosts Radio Boston.
Oh,
she's
okay.
Good. She's a very smart and curious person, which is perfect combination for a journalist.
That is indeed. All right. Any final thoughts?
Nope. I'm just laughing because we're like final thoughts and then 7 more minutes.
I know. Final. We're chatty. What can you say?
I know.
All right. Well, The People's Joker it opens in New York on April 5th. It opens in LA and Atlanta on April 12th. It opens on April 19th in other cities nationwide, such as Boston and DC and many, many others. Dave, would you recommend it?
I mean, I guess. I mean, I can't say no. It's definitely not a don't see it. I think it's a kind of a your mileage may vary kind of thing. I think it has a lot of things worked for me and some things didn't. So, My review was nuanced, you might say.
Ooh, how fancy.
Yeah.
I would recommend it. I think it's very, very creative and unique. And for that, and we always need more trans stories by trans filmmakers. So for those reasons, I would definitely say see it. And Girls State is on April 5th today. It's on Apple TV Plus. Would you guys recommend it? Maybe. Evan.
Yeah, I would recommend it. It's not a strong recommendation, but it's a recommendation.
And I
It's
think
pretty breezy as far as like length goes. I will say it
Yes.
flies by.
it does.
It does
It
do
moves,
that.
Yeah. And I would recommend it. Even though I had issues with it, I found it really, really watchable, very compelling. And yeah. So I think it's worth watching. So all right. Well, we want to give a huge thank you to our sponsor piece patron, Heather Sachs. Heather, thank you so much for your support.
Woo woo, Heather.
Thanks.
And we also want to give a huge thank you to our editor, Otto Clamor. Thanks for making us sound great week in and week out, Otto.
Woo woo, Otto.
Thanks, Otto.
I love the woo-woos.
I've taken a cue from you.
Oh, thanks. I am a woo girl, so thank you. I appreciate it. You can find Spoiler Piece anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also find us at our website, spoilerpiece.com. You can follow us all over the place at social media. We're at Spoiler Piece on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky. No, not Blue Sky. Threads, Letterboxd. We're all over the place. So come say hello. Let us know what you think of these movies. And speaking of that, you can email us, spoilerpiece@gmail.com, or you can give us a call.
At 862-21-PEACE.
Leave us a voicemail message or text us and let us know, did you like these movies? If you haven't seen them yet, do you want to see them? What movies are you interested in seeing? We love hearing your opinions. If you like the show, please consider rating and reviewing us. That really helps us out, gets the word out about the show. You can go to ratethispodcast.com/spoilerpiece. It will take you to your preferred platform of choice. You can also rate us directly at Apple Podcasts, which helps out a lot, or on Spotify. And if you really, really like the show, please consider becoming a patron. And if you already are one, thank you so much. For $5 a month, you get access to weekly bonus episodes. We have hundreds of them. And this week, as I said earlier at the show, we did It Happened One Night, a beloved rom-com, which we had some, as I said, some spicy opinions. So go check that out. And you also get to vote in monthly polls, which is fun. And you tell us what we will be watching and talking about. And you can also, if you like the show, you can also get our merch. You can go to our website and it will take you to our TeePublic store. You can get our t-shirts and sweatshirts, notebooks, tote bags, pillows, mugs, stickers, magnets, a whole host of fun merch that you can get and show your love of your favorite podcast. Because yes, in my head, we are your favorite podcast. I hope you are. I hope we are. But if we're not, that's okay too. There's a lot out there.
Yeah, that's true.
There are. And yeah, I think that's going to do it. So my name is Megan Kearns. I write for Edge Media Network. I'm a co-host of the Slashers podcast, a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and a member of Gallica. You can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Opinion S World, or on Instagram and Letterboxd at The Opinion S.
My name is Dave Riedel. I write for the Chicago Reader. I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and if you want to follow me on the social medias, I'm Dave Sees Movies on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky, and Threads.
Got all of them in there.
Yeah, I got it right this time.
My name is Evan Crean. I'm co-chair of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living, and co-host of the It's the Pictures podcast. You can follow me on social media as Real Recon, and that's real as in film reel.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.